Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you are missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to one of the most anticipated podcasts here on the HHH podcast of the year. It is our International Breeders' Cup horse preview with the one and only great punter from the UK, Mr. Davy Lane. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. That is the best way for you to help this channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell also so that you know when new content will rise, and smash that like button. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter or X at HKravitz. You see on the name tag at the bottom of the screen, and scrolling at the bottom of the screen is my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Again, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com is where you can reach me. You can listen to this show and all of our other shows on the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have very inexpensive, very profitable Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet for both Friday and Saturday. It is only $20 US total. Look below the video player for information on how you can purchase our Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet, now available through a week from today. We're filming here on Wednesday, the 25th, Wednesday, November 1st, midnight Eastern time here in the States is the last chance that you can buy our Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet. You'll have to go to our website for that, hhhracingpodcast.com, a fantastic website. Please make sure you check that out. We also have regular Power Picks as well. Look below the video player for that. After the Breeders' Cup, those come out on Saturdays and cover many different tracks throughout the country. We also are on Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram. You can see on the bottom of the screen there, if you are on a listening to this show, it's simply instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast, one word. We also have many shows. We've got an incredible amount of response recently from our shows. And let's go ahead and show the shows that are coming up. Of course, right now, as we're doing this live on Wednesday late afternoon here in the Chicago area, our international entries with Davy is, of course, right now. Tonight, we have pre-entry show. The pre-entries just came out for the Breeders' Cup about 5 hours ago. Tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern here in the United States, we have a pre-entry show. Then we have 4 shows starting Sunday through Wednesday. If you are a contest player or just wanted to find out more about contests, we have a fantastic show Sunday night for the biggest betting contest in the world, the BCBC. Monday night is our post-draw reaction, and then Friday and Saturday our blowout previews of those big cards. We also have one more surprise interview coming up. I won't mention who. That's going to be released over the weekend. A great gentleman who's involved in the Breeders' Cup. We will be interviewing him. That show will be dropped over the weekend. And then our fantastic show called Bettin' and Boozin', that's what the B&B stands for, are going to have 3 tape shows. Each early pick 5 for Friday and Saturday, and then a great show for the 2-day $1 pick 6. So we are covering it like a glove here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Again, please make sure you subscribe. Hit that red button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. What also would help quite a bit is if you were to go ahead and comment in the live chat. So please comment in the live chat. If you're on YouTube right now, we already have people commenting. We're going to bring those up here in just a second so we can have a lively discussion. And I also know there'll be many people watching this or listening as a replay. If you watch us on YouTube as a replay, please comment down below the video player. React to people's comments down below the video player or in the live chat so we can have very active conversation there. All right. I think that takes care of everything I wanted to mention. Again, Aidan O'Brien was our guest. A fantastic show. It's episode 301. Please check out the Aidan O'Brien exclusive interview. He broke some news yesterday, Tuesday, October 24th, about his runners. He talked about many runners that we're going to discuss here with Davy Lane this afternoon. So again, we're going to interject some of the Aidan O'Brien interview. Please check that out. Episode 301 on the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel. Highly recommend it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is about that time. Our only guest tonight, and we only need one, is not only a friend of mine, a friend of the show. He's been one of the most popular guests we've had every year. He covers our races for us internationally. And Davy Lane knows these horses that are entering the Breeders' Cup like I would know horses that are running in New York or California. These are horses that he follows all year long. Not only does he follow horses in Europe, he knows horses from Asia. He's a true international punter. You want to talk South America, South Africa? He's there for you. Races in Turkey? Just ask Davy Lane. He'll know some of the jocks there as well. Let's bring him on right now. He is live from Liverpool. It is 10 o'clock at night. Here he is, the one and only Davy Lane. Davy, my friend, how you doing tonight?
Hi, Howard. I'm good, mate. I'm good. A little bit of a cold or a deeper voice, but I'm in the zone. I got my big bottle of brown stuff to keep me lubricated. So
there we go. It's betting and boozing here, Davy Lane style. Davey, we appreciate you coming on. I know it's late over there, and I want to say a few quick things for everyone while you're on the screen. We have the show usually a few days after the pre-entries come out. The pre-entries had to be turned in Monday here in the States, October 23rd, noon. I had anticipated that the entry would be out Monday night or Tuesday at the latest. For some reason, the Breeders' Cup decided to delay the pre-entry announcements, and they only came out 5 hours ago, Davey. What does that mean for our viewers? What that means is we literally just got information hours ago on the pre-entries. We do not know who's officially in as of this taping, and therefore we're not going to show as many replays as we normally would, and we're going to be a little bit limited with other things. However, Davey, you know these horses very well, and this is a record number, I believe, of international entrants. I guess who wouldn't want to come to California and run over some fast, firm grass, especially in California in early November?
Yeah, for sure. It's attracted. I mean, the connections want to be there, don't they? It's a great week. It's a great week. It's been difficult to actually sift through these very quickly. I mean, you know the horses, but it's another thing you have to refresh yourself. You have to scrub up the information, and
yes,
we're not all computers, and it's difficult. I mean, if we work, no, really, there are so many variables to get your head around, and
right.
And this is the greatness. This is the great thing about this show. I mean, there's a preponderance of horse racing channels right now in the media. I was surprised to see so many when I was looking up on YouTube before. And I think what singles out your show is the dedication. You got the dedication of the audience and the effort you put in and the craft of it. And a lot of shows just vomiting out opinions. And it's messy out there. No disrespect. People are trying. Some of them are fun, but you bring the journalism as well. And that was brought out yesterday with the Aidan O'Brien interview and the Cody Dorman interview, which I've only seen part of, but I got the humanity from that. Yes. So it can't just be cold and calculating and the numbers. There's a lot more to horse racing as a sport, and you bring that too. And I think that makes your show successful, and that's why people are enjoying it and going to it.
Thank you for the kind words, Davey. We appreciate that. And you are a big part of the show, even though you're not on as often as some of our other guests. Some of our most important, biggest shows have been with you, my friend. So for those people who are not familiar with Davey, we have a lot of new audience members here listening, watching, and we want to get to the entries. But just very quickly, give everyone just a 30-second snippet of your background as a punter in the UK.
Well, my father was a bookies runner in Cork City in Ireland as a teenager, so it was always in the background. You were always surrounded by the horse racing. And actually, I shied away from it for some years, because it was sort of like I do my own thing. And then I realized later that this was actually a grassroots sport, not just a sport of kings, but it was connected. People in the sport are connected. Owners and trainers know about mucking out stables and doing things. And, and I think a lot of these other sports have become the tennis and the football and the rugby that were all amateur sports not long ago, and now just like, big giant TV shows, and it's hard to get connected to them. Whereas in horse racing, look at this. I'm on a show here today, the day after Aidan O'Brien. I mean, that's pretty amazing, and you can go on Twitter And of course, some people have agents like Frankie Dettori, and you can tell, but there are a lot of jockeys out there who interact with you, or trainers, because they're on the Twitter themselves. So I think the sport itself, it may be in a historic decline, but there is a sort of an undercurrent of connectivity between the grassroots and the people involved in the sports that I don't think you get in all these other major sports around the world, and I appreciate that. So I followed it for a while. I did a bit of writing. I got an article about horse racing in the British newspaper, The Guardian, about a South African horse race. Which got me sort of more and more followers. And I did win a competition on the major terrestrial TV station here, on a tipping competition.
Yes.
So that was at Royal Ascot, and it was like maybe 350,000 people, and I was the winner. So that doesn't mean I win every week. I mean, I gave a big tip for you guys when I had my first appearance, and I think I've been dining out on that ever since. But
Ray Shoon, 60-1 at 60-1 at Ascot.
And I backed it up with my workings. It wasn't a case of throwing the name out there. I detailed why it was going to win, or I thought it was going to win, and it did for all those reasons. So anyway, but I'm just a regular working stiff like everyone else, and I'm not connected in many other ways to people. I have a few people I ran into in this world now and again, but I'm not one of these guys who knows people really that much. So
and maybe that's maybe that's not such a bad thing, in all reality. So we sort of we like the homegrown nature of that, for sure. And you mentioned about horse racing people; they're really a lot more accessible. I mean, I can't call we can't call Messi and have Messi on the show. I mean, these trainers and jockeys are more willing to come on, maybe more than some other sports, and give us their information, which is fantastic. We've got a few comments in the chat, Davey, and then we're going to go ahead and start with our handicapping. Let's see who is here watching live tonight. Michael Austin is here. He's in California, Davey, and he said he met Jenna Antonucci, who is the trainer of Arcangelo, very talented 3-year-old. Hello, Michael. How are you? We've got Rodney here. Hot Rod is here. Jeff Amster, one of our great viewers, says hello to myself and Davey. Robbie Courtney, looking forward to helping us understand the deets on the international entries. Absolutely, Robbie. Simon O'Neill has been a very popular chatter, and he's from the UK, I believe, right in your neck of the woods. So Simon is staying up late as well over there overseas. Thank you, Simon. Ralph Conti is here. Hi, guys. Should be a great show, etc. So it's going to be fantastic. We have a lot of people. Tom Espinoza, you know that name, Davey, because he's from San Francisco. Aidan O'Brien is the opening act for Davy Lane. Tom, very well said. How do you feel about that, Tom, Davey, to follow up on Aidan O'Brien? No pressure.
Lovely, Tom. Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take the banners off the screen. Like I said, we're not going to show as many replays for the reasons we mentioned. Also, some copyright issues that we want to avoid. But Davey, most people here in the States, and I'm sure over in the throughout the world, have their own ADW platform. They can watch replays in many different avenues, whether it's YouTube or through their own betting platforms, whatever. So replays are going to be readily available for everyone. You and I have already watched, I'm sure, many, many replays to prepare for this show tonight. Let's start, Davey, with the Friday races. The Friday races, it's known as Future Stars Friday. There are 5 Breeders' Cup races. They are all for the 2-year-olds. I'm going to bring up on the screen right now. I'll go full screen, Davey.
Right.
This is the entry to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Now, these are the pre-entries again. That's why there's no post-position numbers. We have no past performances. These are just the pre-entries. And just to let everyone know, Davey, I will not be showing the second page of these entries, which is the also eligibles. I'm not going to be showing those. We're just going to keep it to the main body of the field that we see. I have personal special interest, Davey, and I'm not sure I think you probably do know this.
I do know. And I think you've got a chance of getting in the race because you've got 2 first preferences elsewhere in this race, etc. So fingers crossed for you on that.
It's possible. I have a very small ownership piece of a horse named Shards, who is trained by Kelsey Danner, owned by Crownsway Racing and MBS. He's talented, Davey. He almost won at Keeneland last time, but he's about 3rd or 4th on the AE list. As of this moment, Wednesday, we're not sure if he's going to be getting in or flying out to California. But anyway, let's go ahead and look at these horses. And again, we don't have the time to go through every single Euro. Right. But Davey, this race in general, other than last year, when it was won by an international horse is not usually won by an international. It's not the best things that you folks do overseas is sprinting, going
Right.
5 furlongs. But there is a name at the top of this list, Davey,
Yeah.
that people need to know because Big Eves or Big Evs is
Big Evs,
very Big Evs. This
yeah.
Irish bred Michael Appleby is
Yeah.
very, very quick. I've watched a bunch of his replays, Davey. Big Evs wants the lead, but many others do also.
Yeah, but I think Big Evs gets the lead, and I would love to come up with a big long price in this race, but I can't. Anti-Post, I did have a horse I liked, Relief Rally, but that scoped badly before its last race and is not here. So this really opened it up for me for Big Evs, and maybe talk about Big Evs mostly at first. I mean, it's a Blue Point, which is the recent, you might remember, the sprinter for Godolphin.
Godolphin.
Yep. It's an Oasis.
Won some big races at Dubai, if I believe, correct?
Yeah. And this was the speed of the speed, and it's by an Oasis Dream mare, so it's speed everywhere, right? So it's proven on firm. It's got 3 wins and a second over 5 furlongs. This is 5 furlongs. It raced against older horses. Now this is interesting. It did so, but the speed was drawn in the middle, but the speed was predominantly on the right, and it got swamped, and the jockey protected the horse, I think. And at some level, you have to say to yourself, it was an experience for the horse. That's how I looked at it. And a few other things. It had in that particular race, it broke very quickly. It just got swamped on its left hand side. The horse is coming down on the inside. But one thing I noticed about this horse, and it's a theme that's going to cut through a lot of the horses that I fancy coming from the UK and Ireland. I don't fancy many French horses this time. Is that the running lines for Big Evs? You'll see a lot of lead, started quickly, and you'll see a lot of other running lines of other horses, and I'll talk about them later. Took keen hold. Now, it's often been said that Euro horses that like the firm get sent to America for the firm, etc. But what I'm noting here about a lot of these prominent entries, including Big Evs, is that the penny might have dropped with the European, the UK, and Irish trainers to get horses that break quick and go to the lead quick for their races. Mm-hmm. And that's a pattern I've come across right throughout looking at all the races for tonight.
Davey,
another
can you quickly comment on what we see? Talk about Odds Checker a little bit. For people who are not familiar with Odds Checker, just briefly talk about what Odds Checker is and your opinions of what you see on the screen right now for the anti-post betting, which has changed quite dramatically now that we have free entries.
Well, the market's changed because prior to the announcement today, Big Evs was the favorite, and he was a 5-1 favorite. Mm-hmm. So the traders have adjusted the price, and they've chopped him into 7-2, and clearly people have had a quick bet on that, because maybe you or I have been looking at these for a few days, but a lot of people wouldn't have realized until today. And then when they saw that the horse was definitely coming, they took the 5-1 or the 4-1. Now the horse is 7-2, and I think it will go shorter as well. As you said before, this isn't really Europe's or the UK and Ireland's bag, these sprints, but 6 or 7 of the horses in this field are going to be Euros. So that's quite interesting. It was a big oversubscribed field. I think there was 24 runners. Yes. So that was nuts. It surprised me at first. But I think there's a few intangibles I can bring to the table as opposed to looking at form. There was one thing that struck me when the trainer was interviewed after this horse won at Royal Ascot. There was a sort of, they were not surprised. There's these moments when these horses, a horse pops up and wins, and like the owners and the connections are sort of have this look of sort of surprise about them, and the horse never wins again. That's the end of it. But it seemed to me they knew what they had, and I filed that at the back of my head. And there's collateral form, if you were watching the Howard Kravitz HHS racing podcast last night, you would have seen Aidan O'Brien talking about Johannes Brahms, and we'll get to him later. But yes, he was the second to Big Evs at Royal Ascot. Now, if that horse is getting trumpeted by Aidan O'Brien, and that horse is running in either the Juvenile Turf or the Juvenile Dirt, which is another thing we can discuss later,
Yes.
You know, it shows you that Big Evs, even though it's from an unfashionable, what they call northern yard, like a barn that's up in the north of England.
Yes.
You know, this horse has got collateral form with the Blue Bloods over the Aidan O'Briens, winning at Royal Ascot, and it's to be taken seriously. And another intangible is the jockey. The jockey's already been noted on the Breeders' Cup website as being Tom Marquand, and he's the best rider in Britain, the young rider. And that you have to take note of this. You know, it's not just the horse. So the jockey is a major part of this. This is why the best jockeys win the best races, and he's one of the best jockeys. People will know Oisin Murphy, and they'll know Ryan Moore, and they'll know Frankie Dettori. But Marquand has made a name for himself in Japan and Australia winning Group 1 races. And he's been nicknamed things like Tokyo Tom and Aussie Tom because he's winning the Group 1 races.
Sure.
So he will explode. And there's something very interesting. There was a moment I was listening, because you do Australian race radio about maybe 5 weeks ago, interviewing him, and they were interviewing him about, you know, what rides he would have at the Melbourne Cup and this and that, and the rest, and what his wife would do. Holly Doyle is his partner, what she was riding, etc. And there was a moment when the Aussie interviewer, and it was like Columbo. You know, ever see Columbo with Peter Falk, where, like,
Of course, yes.
the whole thing was going on, and then he would sort of get his raincoat and he'd just be leaving, and then he'd turn around and say, one more thing, you know? And that was like when you caught it. Well, there was the Aussie interviewer, was the same thing.
Okay.
He said, what about the Cox Plate? As people know, the Cox Plate is a sort of Arc de Triomphe of the Southern Hemisphere. That's this weekend. And he said he got rides at Moonee Valley. And Marquand was then caught like a sort of a child at Christmas saying, oh, no, I've got Breeders' Cup something coming. And then my head immediately went to Relief Rally, and I did an anti-post bet. Well, lost that. But
sure.
He subsequently rode Big Evs in his last race. So he's ridden them once.
Yeah.
So that was the moment I was plugged into Big Evs as well, because, you know, the jockey, you know, if you're a good journalist, you get the truth out of people. And I sense from Tom Marquand there that intangible, that he's on a good thing. He's going to get his name exploding in the United States. So that's my intangible, on top of all the running lines and winning on firm turf and this and that, you know.
A few things I want to point out. First of all, Big Evs is very quick, but our handicapping will, of course, occur mainly next week, but we are going to talk about handicapping tonight a little bit. I mean, you have to. Big Evs, it looks like to me, Davey, gets large leads quite often in Europe. I don't see that happening, though, here, because No Name Nets is very quick. A Slider is a very quick horse here from the United States. Crimson Advocate is also, doesn't have to have the lead, but won at Ascot. Another horse that won at Ascot that's on here is Valiant Force. Very quickly, Davey, just in your general preference, give me the Beat Boys, Valiant Force. Pearls and Rubies is a horse that Aiden did not talk about on our show, although we didn't ask him either. Of all the other horses you see on Cherry Blossom, of all the other Euros you see on this list, does anyone, do you fancy anyone as maybe a longer price that you see right now in the anti-post betting?
I don't really. I mean, Cherry Blossom's a nice horse. No Nay Never. It was spanked by One Look, which, along with City of Troy, is the most impressive 2-year-old Euro this year. And I think that got into the horse's head. Pearls and Rubies. I was on the horse the first time out. It was very, very late bloomer. It raced late in the year for a 2-year-old, and it won impressively going away. Then it got lost a little bit, and then its most recent race was over 6 furlongs when it was coming strong. It's 5 furlongs is too short for the horse. I don't think it'll make the trip. Another one, give me the Beat Boys. Now, I mean, this, I don't want to get political now, but this was a horse that was bought before Royal Ascot by Watnan Racing. Now, Watnan Racing is the Emir of Qatar. Now, Qatar sponsor a lot of these things. You know, they Quipco British Champions Day. That's the Qatar Petroleum Company. You know, there's Arc de Triomphe. There's the Breeders' Cup. I mean, you know, so that to me was like a gimme. You know, they put that horse in. Now they spent a lot of money for the horse, and the horse is not a bad horse, but you know, maybe there are others in the field that, you know, in the extras, the AEs that deserve a place over that one. So I wouldn't rate that too much. Tiger Bell's a Group 3 winner in France, but that isn't good enough. And Valiant Force was a shock winner, and it was thumped on soft ground last time out. Starloss might get in the race. He's one of the alternatives for Beckett, but that depends on scrap. That depends on the field being juggled around, and so might your horse then. So I'd love to come up and give you a big price, but I see Big Evs as being the the best.
That's okay. We don't want you searching for something that's not there for sure. Davey, we've got Simon O'Neill, by the way, jokingly said, I should just contact Aiden and tell him to withdraw 2 of his so that Shards, our horse, can get in. I don't think, Simon, it's going to work that way. Let's see. We got some other questions here. No Name Mets from Maiden Focus should be taken seriously, no doubt. There are some very good Americans in this race for sure. Simon also mentioned that the form of the Norfolk at Ascot is very poor. Would you agree with that, Davey?
Yeah. But that was how many months ago was that? You know what I mean?
Right. That was quite a while ago. Yes, that was June, early June.
Correct? Yeah, and the recent form of Big Evs is good enough for me. You know.
Yes, Michael Austin's going Big Evs, Apple Blossom, Crimson Advocate, and No Name Met. So in general, Davies, we move along. Otherwise, we'll have a 5-hour show here. I know you love to talk horse racing, as do I. In generally, your Big Evs is by far the best Euro, in your opinion, in this race. Of course, we don't have the official field yet. Anyone else would be a bit of a long shot in your view. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And the market shows that. The market shows that.
Okay. What I want to do next, Davey, because we're going to once in a while we're going to interject some comments from Aidan O'Brien from last night. But as I get that set up, Davey, in general, why do you think there's so many international entrants? Is they want quicker ground? California is a beautiful place to travel. They think the United States horses are weak. A combination of all three, because there's big races in Japan coming up. There's other places that these Euros and Japanese and other places they can go. But it seems like this year there are a lot of
I was
international
surprised
entries.
when I looked.
Why do you feel that is, Davey?
I don't know. When I looked at I do know. I think I do know. When I looked at the Santa Anita notes a few days ago, it said 42 boxes were like provisionally saved for the Euros. I almost fell off my chair.
And 9 Asians, by the way. 9 for Asia.
I don't know what the number is now because it's all happened so quickly. I haven't had a chance to tally anything up, but it seems like a lot more than 42. But then again, not all of them will get on the plane. I mean, Aiden didn't mention some of the horses to you on his show because he did say they were running them. Was it today or tomorrow before they got on the plane Friday? The last sort of. It was.
I do want to say, Davey, and Aidan O'Brien better than I. Have you had a chance to meet Aidan O'Brien in person?
No, never. No.
So, I mean, he's very honest. He's a fantastic gentleman. He's very honest. I don't think he's going to throw horses out there that we didn't ask him about, Davey. I talked to Paul Halloran about this today. He's not one that would say, oh, Howard and Paul, by the way, we've got someone that I want to tout. He just doesn't. I don't feel like he'd that be. Just because he didn't mention a horse doesn't mean they won't come. We didn't really ask him about every single race. So I think that's just something, for example, Paddington in the mile, which we'll talk about. I was surprised here in the U.S. He wasn't really mentioned as a horse that was going to be coming over for the mile, and now he's pre-entered. That's an extremely talented horse.
He was pre-entered on Monday, but as Aiden said on the show, decisions will be made when the horses all do a canter on Thursday.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah, so he'll make his decision once he drives in his Range Rover, ride the horses in County Tipperary on Thursday morning, and he sees what's what, and then he'll make his click, 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 and they're on the plane the next day. That's it.
Is that what he has? Okay. Well, listen, let's listen from Aidan O'Brien here. This is about 30 seconds, Davey, and we asked Aidan how he prepares his horses for Santa Anita specifically because it's a sharp left-hand turn or bend, as you well know, which is quite different than a lot of the races that are straights or uphills, downhills, etc. in the UK. So I'm going to bring on this quick right now, 30-second. Hopefully the sound will work. If the sound does not work, Davey, let me know right away with a little thumbs down or something. But this should work. Here's 30 seconds of Aidan O'Brien from our show last night about how they prepare horses for Santa Anita.
Well, most horses are left-handed anyway, but by nature, because the minute a horse is born, they're always led left-handed, So most horses find it easier to go left than right. So I suppose our horses usually don't have any problem with it. Santa Anita, like I say, you need speed, you need to be quick, and all the things in that goes with it, I suppose. And I suppose we kind of train for that kind of an environment the whole time anyway, Howard, so it usually fits in fairly well.
Anything surprised by any of those comments, Davey?
Some of the obvious stuff, the horse is getting walked left-handed. It's just obvious. Most people are right-handed and they walk the horse on the. All of these things it never occurred to me, but
Yeah,
it's fascinating. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Paul Halloran. Paul is joining the show. My wonderful co-host. How you doing, Paul? Said 43 European. That's just Europeans are pre-entered. That is a very large amount. And you mentioned speed, as is Aidan O'Brien. I noticed watching a lot of replays, especially of his runners. A lot of his horses are very tactical and seem to spring from the latch. They spring the latch and they seem to lead from the stalls very well, better than normal. Because a lot of times when Euros come over here, Davey, as you know, they break a little bit slower from the gate. We run quicker sectionals early here in the States, but I've noticed a lot of the entries, at least that Aidan O'Brien is sending over, do have more tactical speed, which I think will be beneficial at Santa Anita.
Yeah, they've clearly worked on this in the last few years, haven't they? I mean, it's like
Yes.
it's not something that's been the norm. It's really a last sort of 3, 4, 5 year thing, isn't it? They've really picked it up.
Yes.
We saw it last year discussing the Breeders' Cup with Victoria Road.
Yes.
We noted that. We pointed the speed out. I mean, in fact, Aidan O'Brien has Victoria Road running in the Cox Plate on Saturday. Yeah. So,
sure.
So clearly they've been doing something at their training complex to get horses to ping the gate. Maybe the relationship with Wesley Ward, with the owners, they took a lot of his horses. And, if you follow Wesley Ward, you see him sitting there on a chair with the gate bringing the horses out every 5 minutes. I mean, there's an art to it. There's a skill.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Let's
maybe
go.
That's what they picked up on,
Let's move on to the Juvenile Fillies turf. We have, well, we're not going to cover all 14 races. Obviously, we're only going to cover the races that the Euros do, and we're going to move along as much as possible. But as long as you're able, David, and as long as people are commenting in the chat, we'll make this I don't mind making this a longer show for sure. There's a lot to cover. Juvenile Fillies turf. There's the pre-entries. Let me make this a little bit bigger right now here. Let me work on that. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. This again, these are the pre-entries. This is not, we don't have morning lines, although we will show some anti-post odds. We don't know exactly who's in. There's also horses on the also eligible list. In terms of foreign horses that I think that we need to discuss, Carla's Way for Simon Crisford. Content is a horse that Aidan O'Brien discussed on our show last night. People can listen to that. The French horse is that Le Pavot, I believe. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been working on my French, Davy, for tonight. And then Porta Fortuna or Donica. Is it Donica, I believe? I'm sorry.
Donica.
Donica O'Brien, son of Aidan. I'll just throw it to you, Davy. Where would you like to start here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies pre-entries?
I'll start with the horse that's now the favorite. That was prior to entries was 5-1 and is now 5-2. An even more pronounced cut in the market. This is half the price. A Big Evs was clipped in a little bit, 30%, but this one has been clipped in half the price. And a big reason for that is the opera singer not being there. I mean, it was pointed to. It was O'Brien had said weeks ago that was a possibility, and
I know you're a little bummed by that with a certain bet that you had, but that's the way it. That opens up this field tremendously. We were very surprised last night when he said that. So who is the favorite, Davey? I'm not sure you said the name. I'm sorry.
Well, the name would be Carla's Way as the favorite now. It's 5-2 favorite, and that's no accident. That's just that's a horse that would have been competitive with Opera Singer. I don't know if it would have beaten her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is a horse.
Talented.
The astute observers here are looking at Carla's Way as being 1,000 guineas horse, which to them, to the English mind, is like, that's what you want to be winning. But is there a sea change? I think one of the things to go back to earlier, you were saying why there are so many entries. Well, perhaps look at the ownership of this particular horse. It's owned by the Khalifas. Now that's the Bahraini royal family. So you have a lot of owners are coming in now, and they want the prestige, and they want the global prestige and recognition. And it's not just about the Qataris and the Emiratis. Now the Bahrainis are, they've always owned horses, but this is an example of them getting to the top shelf of ownership as opposed to, just being around the sport, but not on the level of the UAE guys. We'll get to that later. So this is owned by the Bahrainis.
And James Doyle is riding, according to Simon. Is that correct? Has he
Yeah,
booked on this horse?
yeah, I would say that would be the case. Yeah. So,
Or he?
yeah,
Sorry, he does ride Carlos Way. I
yeah,
apologize. He's not saying that he's going to ride him this weekend, or next weekend. I'm assuming he would though.
yeah. I would assume. I would assume the case is. I would say that would be the case as well. I mean, maybe O'Brien. If Carlos Way wasn't going to go, and it's a horse that has a bit of a temperament, it gets a bit agitated. Maybe they were thinking of not sending her. And if that would have been the case, maybe Aiden would have sent Opera Singer because it would have been a nice stroll, But you don't necessarily
Maybe can we give a little shout out to Racing Post again? I want to.
Yeah.
We're big. Let me bring both of us on screen. I think it's extremely important to educate the U.S. punters and handicappers on some of these European or international horses we don't know about. There's a lot of information, folks, and yes, you have to spend time. It takes time, right? And you have to have a desire to watch replays, and that's why we're here, of course, to help people out. But there are many. That's the beautiful thing about technology, Davey, in this day and age. And there's some negatives about it too. But sites like the Racing Post, which I believe you believe is excellent. Tell everyone what we're looking at. This is just a page. I just went to Racing Post. It's free.
Yeah.
And I typed in Carlos Way just very briefly, and I'll scroll down. What are we looking at here?
Well, you're looking at the page of the specific horse. In the top left-hand corner, you will have the horse's name, the country it was born. Then underneath you'll have its age, and then you'll have what the sex of the horse and the type of horse. Like this is a chestnut filly. Then you have the name of the trainer, and then you'll have what the trainer's last 14 days have been, and the percentage is 5 for 24. There's the owner, as I said before, Khalifa. To people who know the Gulf, the Arabian world, the Khalifa is the Bahrainis. You have on the right hand side, you'll have the sire. Now the sire, if you know, there's the Australian.
Yeah.
You've got speed on top, and if you want to click on that Star Spangled Banner, you'll open up a new page, and that'll tell you, that this was by Shazia with another big hot
very
sprinter.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is.
They got a picture too. They don't have that here in the States. That's pretty nice.
So this is all speed, and this is the horse of that, and then the dam.
Maybe is this the average winning distance of his progeny, the 7.1 furlongs? I'm assuming.
No, that wouldn't be the average winning distance. No, that would be the horse's. Sorry, my eyesight. That would be the horse's average trip, so to speak.
Okay.
I would have ran between 6 and 7. Whereas New Approach underneath, that was the Derby winning horse. So there's a stamina on.
Okay, so that's the average distance that horse ran at, not his progeny, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then of course you guys, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but lifetime record, and then these are the sort of past performances. Just a shortened version. Talk about this horse's last race was Carlos Way won at won in a 6-horse field there at Newmarket at 7-2. There's James Doyle. And I think the last thing I want to mention here, Davey, I know you're chomping at the bit, is we've discussed this. This is the Racing Post rating. This is not really an official number, so to speak, like a time form. This is just a rating that they've come up with, correct? The dark number.
The Racing Post rating, but the official rating is next to it.
Yes, 90. So that's the one people should focus on if they go to the site, correct?
Yeah, the OR.
97, 98.
Right, and everything there is self-explanatory, but there's very important bit of information on this, which you've just flashed through it. It says 64-day break, but then it says on July 5th, 2023. What does it say? It says wind surgery.
Yes, had a throat issue or some kind of breathing issue.
Well, this is very, very interesting because the punters in Britain. This was the norm about 4 or 5 or 6 or however many years ago, but you'd watch a race on the terrestrial TV and the horse would whiz up and take the lead and win the race. And immediately after the race, the commentator would say, well, that was a great performance. And the horse had a wind operation like a month ago. And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me that before the race? And these guys seem to know. And
this
there was
is great information we do not get, by the way, in the States. They don't have that anywhere.
There was a big push to get it on there, and they pushed it on there. So now if a horse has had wind surgery. So
Davey, the 97 and 98. Do you know how that compares to time form figures?
No.
The official rating.
I mean, they've all got their own gradation.
Right.
So it's
Okay. All right, I hear you. So Carlos Way finished in Newmarket. This horse can be forward, by the way. just to let people know in terms of race style. Carlos Way can be Ford. Talk about Forda Portuno, who's been going shorter distances. I've noticed. Donica trains, has had a very good fig last time. I'm a little bit dubious of the distance with this horse, but I know some of these trips for Porta Fortuna have been uphill finishes, Davey, I believe. And so maybe the distance will suit this horse. What's your opinion on Porta Fortuna?
Well, that's probably the biggest threat. The Caravaggio filly is probably the biggest threat to Carlos Way.
Okay.
But it's got US connections, and you know, I don't know. I don't know. I get very cynical about people want their horses to run and so on. So, I think it's the next in line. I don't rate the O'Brien horse. Maybe it's a good value, at probably 20-1, and I don't rate the French horse. And Frankie Dettori will probably be riding Porta Fortuna. But I think, like I said with Big Evs, this Carla's Way is the real deal. And I think maybe O'Brien was right to avoid getting into a duel with her, because it could cook both of them. And this
I
is
will say Content is more of a closer. Even Aiden said she breaks a little bit slow, which is not ideal for Santa Anita. I watched the replay of Content. I wasn't blown away by her. I wasn't overly impressed, to be very honest. But if you think I'm going to leave Aiden O'Brien off of some kind of horizontal pick 4 or pick 5, you're crazy. So I'll be using her. But this is clearly not some of Aiden's best that he's bringing over here in this race.
I think Big Evs is a more likely. Carla's Way is a more likely winner than Big Evs.
Okay, that's good. Oh, really? That's good to know. Okay.
So I rate her a lot.
Davey fancies Carla's Way quite a bit. Anything else in this race before we move on, Davey?
Well, if you look at Carla's Way's last race on firm turf, I mean, it was just springing away from everybody. And the important thing to remember about it is that in its running lines, it was this business of took keen hold and so on and so forth. But in his last race, it was rated. It was held up a little bit, and the button was pressed by James Doyle, and bing, then it went again. So that was very, very interesting to know. The horse knows what it's doing now. So this worry about whether the horse gets a bit hot-headed or what have you, I think they've got control of it, and I think it's an easy race to win. The connections have made a good decision. Now that wouldn't go well with a lot of English people watching it, because they're thinking about the 1,000 guineas. But the owners want to win the Breeders' Cup, and that's the end of it. And if the horse is cooked after that, I'm not sure they care too much, to be honest.
Yes.
We'll
Davey,
see.
I think you called Porta Fortuna a he there for a second, so I'm going to have a quick beverage, because feel free to have a beverage, Davey, out of that slight misgender. You know that. What do you got there, Davey?
Ginger beer. So.
Wow, fantastic. By the way, I want to mention this to everyone real quick. Side note. I almost came overseas this year, this summer, Davey. It ended up being a very busy summer for me. But I wanted to just let everyone know. I want all of UK to know that there's a possibility, and this time it's a much stronger possibility, that next summer there might be a Howard Kravitz sighting walking down the streets of Liverpool. So look out, everyone. Davey, we'll be talking in the next several months, but that's a possibility. We'll see. I'd love to go out there.
We'll hook you up.
All right. Be prepared, everyone. Let's talk about the Juvenile very quickly. I want to bring this race up, Davey, because of Johan Brahms, who's first entered into the Juvenile Turf. There's also a horse called Cuban Thunder that I'm not familiar with, to be honest. That's Irish bred. Just very quickly about these two. If Johan Brahms goes, that's a speedy type. What do you know about Cuban Thunder? Or there's a Corno Neo. I'm not familiar with that Japanese horse.
The Japanese horse. I'm not familiar with that at all.
Okay.
They're
in the main body. We'll have to do our research on that one.
I mean, I completely missed the Japanese horse, and I wasn't even What do
you know about Cuban Thunder and Johan Brahms, David?
Cuban Thunder was a long shot at Royal Ascot. It's owned by the same Persian-Iranian guy who owns King of Steel, football agent guy. It seems like he wants to have his horses running. I'm not sure if it's got a great chance, to be honest.
Okay. I'll take a look at the odds here as we. Johan Brahms is listed as 40-1 if he goes there, and 66. All right, we're not going to talk about no disrespect to our wonderful Asian entrants, but 66 to 1, we don't need to talk about.
Yeah.
There is a comment in the chat from Corey Shore. Corey, thanks for joining the show. Said that Le Pavot has the same trainer as Malava from 2 years ago, who was a nice miler. So, are you familiar with that trainer at all, Davey?
Yeah, but not intimately, you know.
Okay, no problem.
I don't. It's not Andre Fabre anyway. That's for sure.
No, all right, all right. Let's go ahead and move on, Davey, then to the next race with a lot of Euros, and that's gonna be the Juvenile Turf.
I would go back to something. I think there's and this is again listening to O'Brien on your show last night. You have to look at this Johannes Brahms. I mean, there's 30 points available for the Kentucky Derby in this race.
Are you talking about the Juvenile, the dirt race you're talking about?
Yeah, and we're talking next. I know we're going to skip over it, but it's a second preference. But I've got a sneaky feeling because the horse, the race didn't fill up, and he's got 3 running in the juvenile turf, and I actually think that it depends probably on what gets on the plane on Friday, what of the River Tibers and so on. But I would not. I mean, it may not hold for Americans, but for anti-post UK punters, I wouldn't shy away from having an anti-post play on Johan Brahms. He's 16 to 1 right now for the dirt race,
and he has a lot of early speed. Is that correct, Davey?
Yeah, and you know he's on the Northern Dancer line. I mean, this is this is no turf only back number. You know, this is
okay. The 2-year-old boys here in the States are pretty good this year, I will say. So if he wins that race, that would be quite the effort. Let's talk about the Juvenile, Davey. Now, with Aidan O'Brien, he has been unbelievable in this race. I think I have the stats from yesterday. Actually, I don't have them in front of me, but if I recall, Davey, I believe he is 5 for 16. Record 5 out of 16 wins, 31% strike rate for Aidan O'Brien. He's won 5 Breeders' Cup Juveniles, and he's won, I believe, 6 Breeders' Cup Turf races. So the race that he's won the second most is this race you see on the screen. Let's talk about the entrants that are coming over from overseas. We have Legend of Time for Charlie Appleby, who, frankly, Charlie Appleby's yard, he's not bringing a lot of really strong horses this year. Mountain Bear is a horse you've already touched on that Aidan O'Brien mentioned on our show last night, as well as River Tiber Unquestionable. So this is pretty much Aidan O'Brien versus the American group. Davey, go ahead. Tell me, who would you like to start with the Aidan O'Brien group?
Probably his favorite horse would be River Tiber, but that and if that goes, it's got a good chance of winning. It was I think lame during the summer, I think, and it missed a lot of work. So but it's come back to form. It got a respectable second to Van Dijk in a Group 1 at Newmarket
twice, I believe. And Van Dijk is a serious horse.
Van Dijk has been, instead of Connections thinking that they're going to, conquer the world with it, it's just going to stay as a sprinter. So that puts the River Tiber race in context over the 6 furlongs, because River Tiber wasn't fading. It was racing strongly at the end.
Here's his form lines if you want to mention anything that you see on the screen here, David.
Well, yeah, so you have the break there, and the break was because it was a little lame. So, but it's the 2 what was it, 2 1/4 lengths to Van Dijk. That's a good race. So if the horse is ready to go, it's a serious threat. And again, looking at the form lines, this is another with a took keen hold. So it's another horse that's prominent early that wants to get on with it, and that's the type of horse they're bringing now, as opposed.
What about the distance, though, Davey? Here's the sires Wooten Bassett. Transcendence is the dam. Yeah. Oh, what about the 2-turn 1 mile
Not
distance?
Really. I mean, Wooten Bassett was a mile. I wouldn't be worried about the 2-turn and mile at all. No.
Okay. I have some notes on River Tiber. As we said, never been past 6 furlongs, which is a small concern for me. But has been running very good races against Van Dijk, who is a very nice horse. So, I think River Tiber is going to be forwardly placed and a threat. Who else in this race do you fancy, Davey? I'll go ahead and show the odds as of right now in the
The other strong O'Brien horse would be Unquestionable, but that's been a bit of a bridesmaid. It's easy to say that it's if it just gets the right chance, but to me it seems more of a sprinter and a bridesmaid. And it was beaten. There was a horse I tipped for you. I think what was it called? Rossa. God, I've forgotten now. At Longchamp a few weeks ago.
Yes, I remember that.
One, and Unquestionable was second, but he wasn't a close second, was he? Really,
So no, there's the anti-post betting right now. Unquestionable, 10-3. Unquestionable. Just a few notes that I have, Davey, just to share for the listeners that I doubt I'll be able to add too much, but has early speed, has received good posts, and I'm not going to, again, people need to watch the Aidan O'Brien, podcast, episode 301. I did ask him. Unquestionable last time ran a very good second. First time up in distance from 6 furlongs to 7, or from 1,200 meters to 14. And Aidan basically said he feels like the extra distance will be good for Unquestionable.
It might be, but it wasn't going to win. It wasn't going to catch the horse at Longchamp. And,
no.
One interesting thing to note about doing the odds checker like you have it there, that can get skewed. That particular page can get skewed if you're just looking at that page, because it's a collection of about 15 different bookmakers. So that will give you the shortest price. And if one trader or bookmaker is out, it looks like Unquestionable is the favorite. Now, if you click on View All Odds, you'll get a page, and the English punter will know which bookmakers are which, and which bookmakers are run by the same firm, because some of them merged, and you get to know which odds are which. So if you were to click on View All Odds for this race as an example, you might see River Tiber might be, different prices. But let's just take a look if you have a chance. Yeah, and then scroll down. Now you go here. You see River Tiber. That the price you saw was the best price. So Bet365 are making it a bigger price than others. Who is 4-1 with some bookmakers.
Yes.
So
a lot of that, so people can see this. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of this will be dependent on whether River Tiber gets on the plane or not. It's one thing to make the entry on Monday. It's another thing to actually put the horse on the plane.
Davey, the more I think about this race, and we'll find out soon, I have a feeling Johan Brahms might go to the Juvenile, because Unquestionable has some speed. River Tiber has some speed. Mountain Bear, can you touch on Mountain Bear real quick, Davey?
Yeah. That's just coming along for the ride, as far as I can see. Okay.
He's not going to run 3 in the same race. So I have a feeling if Johan Brahms can go to the Dirt Juvenile race, I have a feeling, Davey, that's where he's going to go. I tend to agree with you. Of course, people watching this next week are like, we already know that. Again, we're filming this on Wednesday, October 25th, everyone.
Johannes Brahms is a second preference. And generally they go with the first preference. But I can recall Aidan O'Brien and the lads sending the second preference first in the past. I mean, I can't remember all the examples, but it happens.
Yes.
And the fact that the Juvenile is not oversubscribed. Remember, he said he gave you the caveat. If he gets in the race, remember, here's what he said. So the Juvenile will not be. How many runners are in the field? 10. It's not like 14, right?
I'll have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, but there's enough that he gets in the race. He's in the race. He's not on the alternate. So if he's in the race, I think he runs in that race.
Okay.
So I'm going to be taking the 16-1 on him. Why not?
Your UK friend says Bet365 don't take bets over £10. That's why they do the best prices. Yeah. So that's Simon's got a little opinion there on Bet365. All right, let's go on to the next race, Davey, which I'm going to queue up right now. Now we're going to move on to the races on Saturday. Now, we're not going to go through every single race, because there aren't Euros in every single race. I do want to bring up one horse, though, that I think is actually quite interesting. And I hope this horse does not win, because this is the Dirt Mile. Quickly, talk about Algiers, or anything you know about Algiers, who is a very talented horse who's done some very good things in, I believe, Dubai and other. Whoops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. I want to do that. Algiers, very quickly, will be in this race. Any quick thoughts on Algiers for Simon Crisford?
Yeah, I think it's the best bet of the meeting. I mean, it's 8-1 right now. And
wow, wait, hold on a second. We got to put you on screen for this. Hold on. Cody's wishes in this race. David, you can't go against our guy Cody.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I am, and
Okay.
I play it. I played Algiers already. I think it's great value at 8-1.
Wow.
I mean,
Tell more about this horse, Davey.
well, this basically won the Dubai World Cup, but for the fact it had to go an extra 20 yards, and the Japanese, the closer, just caught the horse. I mean, this is a good horse, and it's had its prep runs. It got unlucky with the weather and having to move to a synthetic at Woodbine and this, that, and the rest. So, but it got a race into it. I think it's a great price. I think James Doyle will know what to do.
There's 8-1, like you said.
Cody's wish, you've got horses who can't decide if they're going to be in the Classic or in the Mile, or you may just talking about going in one or the other, etc., etc. So there's not much competition. And Cody's Wish, great horse, etc., etc. But his I think his time was in the past, and
okay.
Sorry, I think Algiers will win the race.
Don't tell Paul Halloran that, Davey. If you come to California and you see Paul, he's not gonna be happy if you say that.
I'm sorry, but I think
no,
Algiers.
Okay. Algiers is one of the best price horses on the day for Davy Lane on Saturday.
He's not a favorite, and he's 8-1, and he may not on the day. He may not. Well, he might be 6. I don't know, but sure. I think 8-1 is great value. I mean,
okay,
yeah,
very interesting that you like that horse. Let's go on to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, Davey. The Filly and Mare Turf. I was surprised by one thing. Yeah. Maybe you have some intel that you can let me know about, but there was one big surprise for me. Let me bring it on the screen. Here are the pre-entries for the Filly and Mare Turf. Horses coming overseas would include Inspiral, a very talented horse for John Gosden. Lindy already raced here in the States, so we know a little bit about Lindy. Ran very well closing against Mauge at Keeneland in the QE2. You got Lumiere Rock for Joseph O'Brien. State Occasion is a horse I'm not too familiar with. Warm Heart is a serious horse for Aidan O'Brien. And I'm going to be, I have a quote, I believe, from our show for Warm Heart. And then you have Win Maryland and With the Moonlight. Where would you like to start here first, Davey?
Well, I think, Inspiral is the class horse and the horse to beat. I mean, it's a 2-horse race for me, Inspiral and Warm Heart. But that was how I was thinking before I re-scratched into the form earlier this afternoon. And there's a few. I mean, Warm Heart. This is a 10 furlong race, and Inspiral, I think, has only run over a mile ever. I mean, it's every race is a mile as far as I can remember.
I believe. Well, but this was my surprise, Davey. Why are they going? This is a 1.25 miles. Just to let everyone know, this is a 10 furlongs. Yes, 10 furlongs, 1.25 miles. It does start a little bit down a hill, so it's it's a quick 1.25 miles. But I was shocked that Inspiral is not going to the mile, Davey. That was a big surprise for me.
I think there are two reasons. The mile can often be some sort of Keystone Cops type thing where they're all running around the court. I mean, it can be really comical, and you have because the tight configurations, and the horse probably isn't used to that. So they're avoiding that, and two. I might sneeze in a moment. Just wait for a second.
No problem.
Okay. So number one, that's one reason they wanted to avoid that, and the horse, when it's been winning its races and it's been winning very good Group 1 races against good opposition, has been charging away from them and winning by open lengths. I mean, this horse has not just been winning like by a neck or something.
Oh,
she's been, as a drink for you. She's been crushing them. Right.
She's been fantastic. I mean, she did. Again, if you just look at that, I think one of the things, it's a little bit small. Let me bring this up as Davey. Well, poor Davy Lane. Look at this number. If you folks at home watching, and if you're listening, this rating, this OR rating, is probably one of the better ones to look at. Was just been running very well, and the last two was extremely impressive. Davey, this horse started her career going 7 furlongs, by the way. Since then, it's only been 1 mile. This is quite, this is quite a jump up, though, in distance. So I'm still a little bit concerned by that.
It's a jump up in distance, but it's probably it's probably a weaker race, and there's less variables, less things can go wrong. I mean, the horse can get drawn 16 in the mile, and that's the end.
That's true.
Why take the risk? Why take the risk? The horse doesn't break necessarily so fast. It's got plenty of time. It's got a downhill, and it's going to have Frankie Dettori, and it's the best horse in the race. In an American context, it's probably a single, because when the more and more you look at Warm Heart, you know, it's been winning races, Group 2 races at Royal Ascot, etc., over 1.5 miles. So that horse is cutting back as much as Inspiral has to stretch out. So they're both not, neither of them of the two protagonists in the market are necessarily doing what they're used to doing. I mean, or what they've done best, because Warm Heart's best race, she won the Vermeer in Longchamp, right? In September, was it? And that was 1.5 miles, if I remember rightly. So she's cutting back. You know, Inspiral is the better horse, and it'll have the firm ground, and she likes the firm ground. And yeah, I mean, it's the classic single if you're a caveman player, you know, to use the
Okay, Davey loves Inspiral. What type of trip do you envision for Inspiral? In Italian is a very nice horse here, of course, that you know, for Chad Brown.
Right.
That is going to this race. Will show speed. I'm going to bring up a quote from Aidan O'Brien in just a minute about Warm Heart. Where do you expect to see Inspiral going 1.25 miles? Probably mid-pack somewhere would be your guess, Davey, and then make a huge run late. Is that your thought?
Mid-pack to rear, because she doesn't break necessarily so fast, and Frankie doesn't want her to break fast because he doesn't want her to be. He doesn't want a race to be over, so he'll watch them and he'll pick his spots, and he knows Santa Anita very well. He raced there as a teenager. He was there earlier this year, so he'll know what to do. He knows the key. He will know the key measurement, and the key measurement in these types of races is that the distance from the end of the turn to the winning post. Right, I don't know how many furlongs that is at Santa Anita, but Frankie Dettori will know exactly what it is, and he'll know that he'll have that much of a stretch. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish.
No, that's it. So I mean, I'll make that another strong one. I mean, it's not my style. I usually like to dig out the big priced horses, and I'm not giving them to you yet tonight. So
that's quite all right.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Aidan O'Brien, because I asked him that question. I was a little concerned that maybe the distance would be an issue. And In Italian is a very nice horse for Chad Brown, who finished second last year in this race. So I asked Aidan about Warm Heart. We're going to show 2 quick clips. This is Aidan O'Brien from episode 301 about Warm Heart. And Davey, I'll just leave us on the screen here with sound. Breeders' Cup. Warm Heart is very talented. Turning back from 12 furlongs to 10 furlongs, Aidan. And of course, it is a little bit of a downhill start at Santa Anita. So it might even play a little bit shorter than those 10 furlongs. Any concern at all with the distance with Warm Heart?
Yeah, listen, obviously she's going back in trip, but she doesn't work like a slow filly. But obviously, then again, you like to have a draw, so you're not too far back. And, you know, and obviously the downhill is different. But listen, hopefully, listen, obviously you're never sure, but hopefully she's not a filly like that's like she hasn't run over 1 mile, if you know what I mean, like 1.25 miles, 1.5 miles were her trips. But yeah, so hopefully she would be okay.
She won early in the year at 10 furlongs, and if a horse called In Italian, a very talented horse for Chad Brown, who has a lot of speed, I'm sure you're familiar with her, Aidan, goes to that race, I'm sure Warm Heart will show her usual tactical speed, because she breaks well from the gate and also can be a bit forward if necessary, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And she'll be tough to beat, and she will put it up to everybody. She goes all the way, doesn't she? I think usually. So she's a very good filly. So and we would be very conscious and aware of that. And obviously we would be as forward as we were able to be, and see what's going to happen then, I think.
So Aidan O'Brien is very aware of whoops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Very aware of the speed of In Italian, and that would just help. And I'm not suggesting that Warm Heart is as quick as In Italian or press In Italian, but the fact that Warm Heart will at some point, in theory, Davey, put pressure in Italian, perhaps somewhere on the backstretch or on the far turn, that can only help the explosive move that Inspiral will have coming from behind. Would you agree with that?
Right, and In Italian is obviously the great turf horse of the last sort of, I don't know, 2 years. But it right now, I don't know. I mean, was that just what the last race was not so convincing, if I remember right?
I was there in person, and I lost that race because I signaled In Italian. I actually lost to her stablemate Gio Romantica, who's running in the mile, and Gio Romantica is a is a up and coming horse here, but really in Italian was expected to win. It was a very fast race, though. 133 and change was the final time. So in Italian got a very good number. I wouldn't say she regressed, but she didn't get the job done either. So I'm not sure she's worse than last year, but she's definitely not better than she was last year in Italian.
Okay. All right.
That.
So, I mean,
there you go. Anyone else? Let's talk about some others real quick here. Lumiere Rock, I'm not familiar with, and State Occasion, Win Maryland, with the Moonlight. Anyone else you'd like to mention here, David?
Well, Win Maryland is won a group race in Hong Kong, and there's won Group 1 races in Japan. Good horse and what have you, but that Hong Kong race was a very weak race, and that was over a mile 4 as well. And if I recall its race, that win was primarily down to Damian Lane's no relations, great riding in Hong Kong, good Australian jockey, but not up to the scratch of these as far as I can see. With the Moonlight that's been over in the States,
she's not good enough.
Not good enough, and State Occasion is not as good as With the Moonlight. Lumiere Rock gets a lot of play, a lot of people thinking it's a dark horse here, there, and everywhere, but it's a Group 2 number. It's a Group 2 horse, so not for me.
Okay.
So for me, it's a 2-horse race for the Euros with in Italian and
The wonderful thing about punters all over the world is Simon O'Neill, who's been chatting on the shows from the UK and is an excellent punter himself, Davey. He said he's worried about the distance for Inspiral. So everyone's got their own opinion. We'll just have to wait.
So am I. I brought that up at the start. It's never ran this far before. I mean, what's that famous guy, the old guy who used to Howard Pack or something, or Harvey Peck or something?
Harvey Pack, yes. Don't bet on a favorite, something that he or she has never done before was the famous line. But you would still be willing to single Inspiral, though, you did say.
Yeah, because I think she's like the best horse. And she gets
but Warm Heart will get the as we say here in the States, will get the jump on Inspiral. Will be ahead of her at the top of the stretch, you would imagine, correct, Davey?
Yeah, and Frankie will just mow it down. I mean, that's just how I see it playing out. But
of course, it's just our opinions, right? It's just Davey's opinion. Just we'll see. This should be a very interesting race. All right, let's go ahead and.
One thing to fear. I mean, I saw that horse, that French horse, the ex-French horse, Lindy, coming like a runaway train against Mare at Keeneland. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out. That was one I was thinking of just before when I mentioned in Italian. I mean. So it's a 2-horse on the US side and a 2-horse on the Euro side. I mean, it'll be an interesting race, but I think Inspiral is the best horse. But I would be more worried about Lindy than anyone else.
I have a hard time believing that Lindy can run by Inspiral and go past Warm Heart, just in theory. But Lindy, and also coming back pretty quick, which is not easy, although the Euros do that more often than the horses here in the States. But Lindy would be interesting for me. A reverse key underneath play in the trifecta for me. That kind of play, right, Davey? Perhaps for Lindy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on, Davey. Move on. There's nothing to talk about with the Filly and Mare Sprint, although
there might be. The Japanese horse is cross-entered. It could Mikael. It's a good Japanese horse. I mean, if it comes up weak, 7 furlongs, it could surprise people. Well, who knows? But I wouldn't rule it out.
All righty. Let's talk about the Turf Mile. The Mile is always one of my favorite races every year, Davey. One of my favorite horses of all time was fantastic in this race. I just love the Turf Mile. They just go. They quicken. These Euros quicken. Yeah. So damn fast in the last. Goldikova is one of my favorite horses of all time. Her first win and I wish I'd show the replay. Goldikova's first win at Santa Anita, when she had to wait, and then found a hole on the inside. Davey, I don't think I've ever seen a horse explode quicker for 100, 200 meters than Goldikova did the first time she won the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. It was absolutely spine-tingling. It was brilliant. Hopefully we're going to see some type of performance like that. Let me go ahead and bring up the entries here for the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile, and horses coming in from overseas, possibly. Again, these are just pre-entries. Again, we're filming here on Wednesday, October 25th, 5 hours after the entries came in. Kalina, this is an Irish bred horse I'm not familiar with. Master of the Seas has run here in the States. We just mentioned Mauj. Paddington was a surprise pre-entry for me. Extremely talented. You have a French horse, I believe it's pronounced Sauternes. I apologize for the mispronunciation. Songline, the best, the best miler in Japan, and Win Carnelian, I believe, from Japan. Who do you want to start with here, Davey?
Well, just quickly, while it's just at the top of the list, not a Euro, but Casa Creed, there was the entries for the Hong Kong international races today. And often the Americans don't enter many horses in that, but a couple were. And Casa Creed was cross-entered for the sprint and the mile over in Hong Kong, just for reference points. Okay. And it's good to know that I like to see American trainers, go on the international scene as well, as best they can. So, and that horse has done great over in Saudi and in Dubai and everywhere. So good for the connections of Casa Creed.
Davey, who do you fancy the most coming in as that international entry here?
In this, I like Mauge and Songline. I rule Paddington out because in my head he's not going there. I don't know if I got that from Aidan's interview or from reading the ether from the recent days, but okay. maybe they put the horse in because it was Monday and they wanted to see how the horse did on the gallops today or tomorrow. So why not put the horse in? But I would be surprised if it goes, because that was the horse was in the bog at Ascot there, and that's not a great preparation, is it?
So what do you like? Mauge almost did wire the field. Sorry, last time at Keeneland, although it wasn't the fastest pace. I'm assuming there's going to be more speed in here. And Songline is a very talented horse from Japan. We know how well the Japanese have been doing in these international races. What is it you like about Songline, Davey?
Well, both Mauge and Songline have run 9 furlongs in the last respective race, if I remember. Okay. Right. So they both set themselves up for
turning back. Yep.
Yeah, which is nice. I both get great jockeys in Oisin Murphy and Christophe Lemaire is booked on Songline. So to me, they're going to be right there at the end. Providing they get a good draw, and this is why I'm not necessarily here to give anyone the winners of this race, because it's a crapshoot, isn't it? This is a historic crapshoot race. And apart from the great Goldie Cover and that name's blocking on that Dan, what's his name? Wise Dan.
Wise Dan. Tepin was a very talented United States miler as well.
But it can be a real carnage race, can't it? And your great horses can get shutted out. So.
Davey, what do you make of the anti-post betting that you see now? Just to let everyone know, especially those punters that are watching live or going to be listening to this later from the UK and other places throughout the world. Up to the Mark is an extremely talented horse. The plan for that horse and Todd Pletcher is to go to the turf, the Breeders' Cup turf, and not in this race. So Up to the Mark is I expect not to be in this race. There's Gina Romantica. This is the horse that we mentioned before, who beat an Italian last time, Davey, right now 14-1. Ken Ross is not going in this race. How do you feel about Master of the Seas? I think this is Master of the Seas was unbelievable at Woodbine, and then lost in a great race at Keeneland to an Italian. I think Master of the Seas might be a bit overrated and overbet in this spot. That's just my personal opinion. How do you feel on Master of the Seas in general, Davey?
Yeah, I'm not sure the track will suit. I think it's a great horse. It was fantastic on a straight mile in the Guineas and so on in initially, and then it had its trouble in the Breeders' Cup where it banged its head.
Yes.
It's a big horse, and I'm not sure nimble enough to get around the turns in the same way. So
he's a bit grindy, Dave. He doesn't really have that acceleration you need in this kind of race.
So the market has 4 horses for around 4-1: Paddington, Mauge, Songline, and Master of the Seas. And I think in a day or two, you'll find out that Paddington hasn't made the trip, and Master of the Seas will sort of drift in the market as more money comes in on Oisin Murphy and but Flavian Pratt on Gina Romantica. Now if that gets a nice draw, Lord, watch out.
Davey, this is not the strong, the milers in general, and we're going to move on quickly here in a minute. Milers I have found in general over in Europe have not been as strong recently. Every time I watch these mile runs, and Spiral is very good, but in Spiral to me would be 4 to 5 in this spot to me. The odds on in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
in this race. But they're deciding to take Inspiral to a different race. At least that's
Well,
what you have right now.
Inspiral with a nice draw, but Inspiral with a bad draw, different.
This is a wide open race, and I'm usually very keen and fond of the Euros in this kind of race. I'm going to look at some of the Americans very strongly here. I just don't think that, Songline is like a superstar.
Yeah.
I don't really believe Mauj is anything that special. My gut feeling here is maybe to get a little bit cheeky and try to find an American horse I like. That's my gut feeling right now.
Well, Mauj has been saved, I think, saved for this. It was a winner of the Classic, the 1,000 Guineas, when Tahira, the big Aga Khan filly, was, it seemed a certainty, but she didn't come to hand so early in time in the spring, and Mauj beat her. I think surprised everybody, and it was no fluke. If you forget about the times, I mean, this is a great jockey, and this is a horse that got to the lead quickly, which it'll need to do if it's running in the mile at Santa Anita as well. And
Yep.
It's got the run under its belt, so it'll be sharper for it. So I wouldn't discount Mauj, and Songline seems to be back in form. I mean, it really will be in the final half a furlong, there will be like 3 or 4 looking like they have a chance. I mean, it won't just be someone skipping away, will it?
The replays of Songline in that extremely long stretches they have there at Hong Kong and whatnot, that horse can fly late. But again, the mile's very tricky. Santa Anita, you can get stuck in behind. You can get steadied. You really need to get a good trip in the mile at Santa Anita specifically. So a lot of things can happen. Like you said, it's a bit of a crapshoot on that final turn there.
It's a spread, as they say. I mean, yes. I wouldn't be interested in Kalina. I mean, it beat Kinross at Longchamp, but I think Kinross is already cooked by that point, and they were running. They should have maybe held it off. So that's not going to. I think the Wertheimer horse, Kalina, that I don't see that as having a chance. Okay. The Japanese is just there to make the number up, and the Sauterne is a Kingman, which is a good horse over a mile on the firm, but could sneak a place, could be in the mix with a good trip, but I don't see as a winner.
I'm sorry, what horse was that again?
Sauterne, the French horse, if it comes over. If it gets a good draw and gets a good trip, it could sneak a place maybe, could surprise. But it's not, I don't see it as a win candidate at all.
Okay, terrific. There's a comment from Corey Shore, and then we have 2 more races to cover, Davey. Again, Corey Shore is a new name that I've seen in the chat. So, Corey, thank you very much for watching the show. This is just Corey's opinion. I'm going to read it, Davey, because we have people that are going to be listening, not be able to see the screen. Okay. According to one of our someone in the chat, Corey Shore says, "I guarantee," maybe he has some intel, in all caps, Paddington runs, and he runs in the money for 8 in his history of bringing over horses from Ascot after bad weather 2 or 3 weeks later. Circus Maximus, he mentioned, Lupe de Fernandez were the 2. Maybe he has some intel, but your gut feeling he's not coming, Davey.
They came after bad weather, but this recent weather at Ascot was very, very bad weather. I mean, and the ground was, so
if he comes, he's by far the horse to beat, correct?
Okay. I mean, he's right there. But again, this is the mile, and this is like I'm not going to come up and be some guru on a mountain place in the Himalayas dishing out advice here.
Maybe I thought these comments came down from the heavens. I was just going to go right to the betting window immediately.
No. I'm not giving you anything on this. I'm just telling you it's a crapshoot, and if Paddington comes, he's going to be right there, and they're all going to be right there because that's the way it is,
But Paddington does have tactical speed, if I recall, but he's a little more. I don't recall him. I think he's a little more grindy, right? He's not really a quick acceleration kind of horse.
He may have seen grindy because he got unlucky with some of the races he had to run. He had to run in Goodwood on the boggy stuff. So maybe they are saving him, or maybe maybe he looks good right now, and maybe they feel like get him on the plane and get him into the sun on his back for a week, and he might be great. So why not? So
all right. We have 2 more races to cover, Davey. And again, Davey, we really appreciate all the intel. Everyone that's watching and listening, you've done a great job giving us a lot of great intel. Of course, next week, again, we're filming this before the post position draws come out on Monday.
And I'll leave it to the pros after that. Then you guys,
Absolutely. We're going to very quickly talk about the turf sprint. You see the entries on the screen. Again, this is not something that the especially Euros necessarily do. This is not their specialty, although they have won in the past, but not very often. Just your thoughts on Aesop Fables for Aiden, possibly Jasper Crone going here. Living the Dream is a horse we've seen now at Keeneland. He's very fast horse.
He's another one with the speed. So it's a theme I kept bringing up. It's not necessarily horses with firm coming over. It's horses who've got speed and breaking away. So this is what the Euros are bringing now. And this is an example.
And Brad Zell, any thoughts on these horses, Davey?
Yeah, I mean, none of them blow me away, but they've all won Group 1s. Brad Zeller, Ascot, Living the Dream, an unheralded horse that popped up to win the Group 1 at York I played Living the Dream in a Group 3 at Deauville like a few weeks before that and lost my shirt, so I mean, this is the game, isn't it? So, I mean,
Bradsell beat Highfield Princess at Ascot in an upset. Sort of was more on the lead. That was with Holly Doyle. Was more on the lead in that race, but I've seen recently sort of has come from behind. But I don't know if Bradsell's really in the great form that he was in early in the year. So I'm a bit against him.
I'm not confident of them. And Aesop's Fables, if I that can blow hot and cold. And I think that was in this last race. It was 66-1, and it got a 3rd place. So it's not. It's not. But what I did get my head around was Jasper Crone. If you look at the 4 so-called foreign horses, I mean, Bradsell, Like a Dream, Aesop's Fables, and Jasper Crone. I mean, Bradsell in the UK 7-2, Like a Dream 7-2, Aesop's Fables 8-1, and the Jasper Crone is like 16-1. I mean that horse won over 5 furlongs in Japan at like a time of like 1:07, of 6 furlongs at 1:07.
Wow.
I mean, it breaks like a scolded cat and then holds on. So that's its way. And if it does that in the States, it could hold on again.
Well, the problem though, there's 2 problems. First of all, Living the Dream is very fast. Went sub 21 seconds at Keeneland. I was there. Although it was downwind. There was a tailwind at the beginning of that race. So when people see that first quarter for Living the Dream, it's a little bit deceptive. Excuse me, but he's very fast. This race is going to be run at a very fast clip. That doesn't mean that someone can't go to the lead and win like Jasper Crone, but they better have their running shoes on, because that race is going to be run at a very fast clip. And I'm going to try to find someone that's more mid-pack personally in this race. But again, this is not what the Euros do best.
So if that's the case, if you're thinking that Living the Dream is a no and Gear Jockey's a no, and so you're looking for I mean, I tossed them up, and I thought the Japanese was just the better value because it was like 5 times the price,
Sure.
and that's it.
Again, we've plenty of time to handicap. Just to let everyone know, I'm very interested in Big Invasion, who's a horse for Christophe Clement, who won at Woodbine last time. I think Big Invasion is going to come like a train late and love the 5.
That came to Ascot, right? Is that right?
Yes, he did not run very well at all, but he never should have gone in the first place.
I tell you something. You know who's entered in the Hong Kong Sprint?
Who's that?
Big Invasion.
There you go.
There you go. Now that's a good clue. I mean, if it's what
that's a positive sign. You're saying.
For me, it's a very positive sign, and I'll tell you why in the next race. I have a certain angle that I'm comfortable with, and that's one of them. I like when a horse has a trajectory of races plotted out, and they're racing as opposed to going to the sheds or what have you. So that's very, very, very interesting now that you mentioned that, because I hadn't really looked at the US runners. I'd looked at the Hong Kong entries today, but I hadn't looked at the US runners. I'd only focused on the Euro. So seeing Big Invasion, knowing he's entered in Hong Kong, that tells me a lot.
Well, there's also a horse called No Balls, who happens to be a gelding, Davey. It's a great running kind of joke here in the States, but No Balls for a gentleman named Larry Ravelli, who's a very good trainer, trained 2 Fills, who was a really popular 3-year-old here before he got injured. Anyway, there's a lot of speed in that race. I said we'd have one more race, but how can we not talk about the Classic? Because we got to bring up the Classic, and then we'll talk about the Turf, the Breeders' Cup Turf to end the show.
All right.
Here's the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, I'm sorry, didn't want to do that. Let me go full screen. Okay. Really quick here in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I am very, very interested in Davey, in Ushba Tesoro in this race to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. He won in Dubai. I think he's very talented. I'm not sold on a lot of the U.S. horses. I'd like to hear quickly your opinion on Ushba Tesoro. And then King of Steel, who I know we're going to talk about in a minute, is first preference in the turf. Do you think there's any possible way that King of Steel could run in the Dirt Classic?
I'll think of two things. One, Frankie Dettori, who was booked on King of Steel, subsequently to the
Zandon, the Chad Brown.
Yeah, he took Zandon as a book. So if he was even half aware that King of Steel was a dirt possibility, he may have held off. So that's a clue on that. So I think he'll probably go to the turf. I think the trainer will be more comfortable with it, and I also think they might want to get their revenge on August Rodin in the turf. So, I think that makes more sense. If the horse again comes through this week before it gets on the plane. I mean, it's a horse and it's had a big hard race at Ascot. We'll see.
We'll talk about it. Simon O'Neill in the chat, by the way, said he heard Zandon is not running. Simon, I don't know where you get that intel. I have not heard any of that at all.
Yeah.
But if
I've
he's
heard
not running,
risk. Yeah.
If he's not running, Davey, and Frankie Dettori is available for a mount in the Classic, I don't know if that would matter or not enough.
It might. I mean, and who knows how he takes to the turf? So to the dirt. So yeah.
Maybe quickly on Ushba Tesoro, and then we'll talk about the biggest race for the Euros of the day.
Well, I mean, that's a closer, and you're suggesting that the Classic, which from my recollection at Sandra Anita is a race that favors the speed, right? As that's a sort of a common.
It can, but there's a decent amount of speed signed on in this race this year,
and they can crash it. Yeah. I prefer the other Japanese myself. I mean, there a lot of people talk about, that was the sort of wise guy horse in the Kentucky Derby and so on. And I saw a picture and a video of Derma Sodagake about 10 days ago. And the horse, I got an up close look at the horse's coat, and they dappled out, looked fantastic. And it was bucking and squealing. It was a happy horse, a happy sort of strong horse. And I was saying to myself, well, that's a good little, that's a good bit of information. You don't get on a page, you don't get on a racing page.
Yeah, that's true. I'm personally against him. Just let people know. He's not run since the Derby. I can't imagine. Not that they can't get a horse ready off a layoff. I'm against him, but I respect your opinion, Davey. So we'll see. We've got. So Davey, you got a good 10 minutes. We can talk about the Turf Classic here.
Sure,
all right. Yeah. This is the main race that I actually want to talk to you about. And Davey, we've had many fantastic international horses come over for the Breeders' Cup Turf. And to be very honest, there's only one U.S. horse that's up to the mark for Pletcher that even would have a remote chance in this race, in my opinion, and the opinion of many sharp punters and handicappers here in the States. The one thing I will say before I bring up the pre-entries for the turf, Davey, there are two American horses. One is named Balladeer, which we're going to see in just a moment, and the other one named Get Smokin'. These are two horses that want to be forward and are very fast early. I would imagine, and just my general handicapping eye right now, that this race is going to be run at a very fast early gallop, and I think that will favor closers, which can only help many of the Europeans in this race. I do not expect anyone to be able to walk the dog, so to speak, on the front end in this race. Let's go ahead and bring up what a race that I am looking forward to quite a bit, Davey, and the European flavor in this race is absolutely outstanding. I think this is one of the best foreign contingents we've seen here in the turf from a depth standpoint, Davey. Maybe no complete real superstars, but from a depth standpoint, there are many very talented Euros. You got Augusta Rodin, of course, extremely good 3-year-old, 3 Group 1s this year. We talked about him on the show last night with Aidan O'Brien.
Extremely good is an understatement, Howard. I mean, that's the winner of the Derby. I mean, that's
he's special.
I think,
And we're gonna listen. We're gonna hear about him in just a minute from Aidan O'Brien. You've got Bolshoi Ballet and Broom also listed in the pre-entries for Aidan O'Brien. King of Steel is a fantastic horse, and he is a I hope he comes. I can't wait to see King of Steel if he comes. This is a big MFer, so to speak. Musadaf is very talented for John Gosden, a horse we've talked about, especially when we did our live Dubai show. We talked about and Saudi show. Ernesto surprised everyone with an excellent second in the Arc last year. You got Ashar Yar, who's a horse I'd like you to talk about quickly from Japan. So there are many ways to go here. Let's start with Augusta Rodin. How is this horse clearly the horse to beat in this race, in your opinion, Davey?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's the Derby winner. It's going to be close to a 4-year-old by the time the race goes. It's going to be stronger. They've kept him for this race. They were thinking about this race a long time ago. They may even be thinking about going to the Japan Cup and taking on Equinox and the Filly Liberty Island in the month after in Japan. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be Auguste Rodin with Ryan Moore against Frankie Dettori and King of Steel. Maybe, you know, what a matchup that would be. You know,
talk about some of his recent runs that people can see on the screen.
Well, if the race sets up,
the Champion Stakes and other places.
Yeah. You know, if the race sets up, I mean, you know, the question is did Auguste Rodin win the Derby because he had a better jockey in Ryan Moore than the poor Danish guy who was on top of King of Steel, who went too early? I mean, maybe, I don't know, but Auguste Rodin seemed to be. I mean, it didn't fire it subsequently at Ascot in the summer, but that's Ryan Moore being smart by not pushing him if he wasn't right. He supposedly had a bad flight across from Ireland over to England. So okay. We'll see. Maybe he won't ship so well. I don't know. These things you have to work this out as well.
Other than the complete monster, I'm sorry, who won the Arc? What was the name of that horse again?
Ace Impact. Impact,
what a shame that horse. I don't even get me started on why that horse is retired. But anyway, in your opinion, Davey, and I'm trying to find the odds here as we're talking. Would it be fair to say that Auguste Rodin, it would be the second or is the second highest rated horse in Europe over next to the Arc winner? Is that a fair or is that accurate?
I would assume it is, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
There's the odds right now, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
And it's come in too. I mean, it's 3-1 there, but with some bookies it's 5-2. Okay. So it's been clipped since the races were announced. So
so Auguste Rodin is clearly the horse to beat in your opinion. But there are some other really nice horses. Before we talk about some other horses, let's hear from Aiden very quickly on Auguste Rodin. And as I'm doing that, Davey, what makes Auguste Rodin so special to you from a pure punter standpoint? Why is he so good?
Why is he so good? Because he's a horse that it seems intelligent horse who sort of gets he's got his own head and he follows the instruction and he, you know, it's sort of like, you know, this deep impact thing is something very important for the Irish to get the bloodlines in. I mean, we're talking back to Sunday Silence and what have you. You could tell on the owners' faces, you know, the lads, so to speak, that when he won the Derby, they felt like they'd found the Holy Grail because they knew Galileo was no longer, you know, part of the operation, and they needed this. I mean, this is before City of Troy did his thing. So it's just a beautiful moving horse. I mean, it's
let's hear from the trader Aidan O'Brien last night on our show about his very talented 3-year-old Augusta Rodin.
He obviously won the 2 derbies and the Champion Stakes last time. He gets the trip well and he loves the fast ground, and like, we're very happy with him. So it's going to be a good race, like we said. If John's horse comes, like, he'd be very competitive, very good horse, you know. So we're looking forward to it.
We are looking forward to it. That's a little intel there, right?
Yeah, well, he almost put a slap down on the Gosden horse. You know, he'll be very competitive. I mean, it almost like he wasn't taking him seriously. Is
that how you read that? Okay.
That's how I read that, yeah.
All right.
And of course, the Gosden horse, you know,
we're talking Mustadaf, everyone.
Yeah, Mustadaf. There was a sort of a run at Ascot and so on. I mean, and ultimately, you know, Gosden Sheikh Hissa, the daughter of Sheikh Hamdan, you know, made the decision apparently to bring it here. Yeah, you also have to look at the politics of that. You know, I mean, how many more Shadwell horses are running for US trained Shadwell horses? I don't think there are many, right? No. So really, it's about being relevant still and about making sure that, you know, the UAE, you know, there's a big move by the Qataris into racing right now, not with Watman and so on. And the UAE guys have had a bit of a weak year, and you've got to keep relevant, you know. So, you know, you've got to put one of your guys up and your best guys and keep you in the paddock and keep you out there. So I think it was a political move. and I'm not liking the horse because it's already been consigned to the stud farm and it's ready for its next career. And I
Okay.
much prefer betting horses when they already have the plotting ahead for the next and the next. So when they're in a regime. So
it feels like Musadov needs a perfect trip to be competitive in this race. I know he's very talented, but he's a little more grindy, and I don't see the upside with Musadov as much as some of the others. That being said, I think he can win, but I agree with you. Just the whole vibe to me is a little bit negative with Musadov. Let's hear from Aiden one more time, because I asked him what makes this horse so special. So I got to bring this up one more time here. One more quick quote from Aiden, and then we'll get some other horses, and then we'll end the show. Again, Davy Lane, greatly appreciate you being with us. Here is, very quickly, last night again, Aiden O'Brien on Augusta Rodin. About what makes this horse so special.
I suppose he was always very natural. He's a very good mover. He loves fast grounding. He loves pace on in front of him. I suppose he's a natural athlete, really, very straightforward to train. And he's done very well as the year went on, and he's had a little bit of a run into this race, and we've been very happy with everything he's been doing since.
And are you very confident that if he's in behind horses in a tight spot, that he can quicken that last furlong as necessary? I've watched many of his races. He seems like a very athletic sort.
Yeah, he is. Usually, obviously, everyone has to have luck and running in a race, but he looks very straightforward horse. We always thought he was. He'll follow the pace and he'll quicken. He doesn't kill himself when he gets there, but that's the way he's always been. But
so again, I mean, I like the fact he's got a little bit of a break too, Davey. To me, that's a good sign as well. I like that.
Yeah, they're keeping him fresh, because they may also have another target after this. They may want to send him back to Japan. I mean, the Irish would love to go with the deep impact horse to Japan and take on the best Japanese. I mean, that's not being discussed, I don't hear in the media, but I could see that happening. Why not?
King of Steel coming back this quick, Davey. I know European horses can do it. That was a tough run. That in the British Champion Stakes. If he comes, I'm sure connections feel like he's ready. But sometimes horses look and feel like they're ready. Yeah. But I would be against him at the Breeders' Cup. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think he'd be cooked, and I think and that gives that and the issues with Mastodaf make this more and more an make the 3-1 on Auguste Rodin very, very nice. I mean, to be honest,
Ernesto and Shahryar, quickly, can you talk about those two, Davey?
Yeah, Shahryar is the Japanese former Derby winner. It's the only Japanese Derby. It was the first Japanese Derby winner to actually go outside of Japan and win a Group 1. So this is a real horse. And there's another thing that this horse has had recently. And what is that? A wind operation. So that's something and I took the 33-1 on that horse, and he's now 12-1. And I took the 33-1 because I could see the field cutting up a little bit. And I know that. And the other thing is I knew he was coming. Another good thing about watching the racing in various places, you get to see who's got more transparency. The Japanese are very clear about where they're going, when they're shipping, and you find out the company who's shipping them, and you get to know the information. You don't get the umming and ahhing of, like, well, we might do this. So I knew a long time ago this thing was going, and why not take the 33-1 as an each way bet? Could easily pop up.
He has a realistic chance to win, or more underneath.
Underneath, but for an each way price,
each way,
was great. Yeah, why not?
Ernesto last time, was that just a fluke, Davey, in the Arc? What's your opinion there?
What was that question? What was that?
Ernesto, was that more of a fluky result in the Arc, or is he improving and could be a factor?
No, they saved him, I think. But it went to Japan last year and ran sort of mid-pack, I think. I mean, it's a good horse, but it's placed at best, I would say. But it'll be thereabouts. But I don't think it's the quality of Auguste Rodin.
Who's the biggest threat to Augusta Rodin, would you say, Davey? My last question for you, in your opinion.
In my opinion, the biggest threat would be the American horse, probably.
Up to the mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting intel. So you like Up to the Mark's chances better than Musadov and King of Steel and Shahryar. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow. Very interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Davey, real quick. Richard Avalar. Happy birthday, Richard Avalar. Richard Aller is a great chatter on the show. Richard, happy birthday. Listen, we've got so many. Smoggington, welcome to the show. And I love the name. A new person in the chat. Go Augusta Rodin, get it done, and get that money.
Yes.
I'm going to be playing that horse big time. Davey, as we go ahead and end the show, because you've done a tremendous job and we've been gone on quite a while here.
Yeah.
Give everyone your final thoughts on this year's Breeder Cup pre-entries. I'll tell you what, your best bet, your best international horse of the day, the most likely winner, not by the odds, just the most likely winner of the weekend for the internationals, and your best roughie or long shot on the weekend for the international entrance stage.
Well, I've just written out a 5-horse parlay that I'm going to play as soon as I get off. Wait a
minute, I got to write this down. Here we go. Go ahead.
Well, Big Evs, Carla's Way, Algiers, Johannes Brahms in the Dirt, and Auguste Rodin.
Ooh, that would pay nicely.
I'll do an each way. I'll do an each way parlay on those 5. Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
You've cooled me on Derma Satagaki. I kind of like that, but you've cooled me on it because I've played it already at 20 to 1. But
don't let me cool you too much. I don't want that horse to win and stuff everyone in a locker. Is Augusta Rodin your most likely winner of the weekend, or would you say Carla's Way perhaps?
Carla's Way would be.
Carla's Way. Okay, and your most favorite long shot international of the weekend?
Probably the Japanese in the sprint.
Oh, Jasper Crow, right?
Yeah, I mean, only because why not? It's a sprint and anything can happen, and it goes fast and it can hold on. Maybe that's all. But
I like it.
No confidence on that. No confidence on that.
Okay, Davy Lane.
You know what? In Spiral, but you know the mile can. You know, you can have the best horse and it gets blocked in no matter what Frankie's riding or not. And you know, God, you finish second by a nose for whatever reason, gets drawn 16. You know. Sorry, that's in the Fillies Turf. I've got that mixed up.
Yes.
I should have written in Spiral in here as well. So make that a 6-time parlay. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Once again, we've got Breeders' Cup Power Pick tip sheet now available. Look below the video player. You don't have to be in the U.S. That's for anyone. We'd be very honored and privileged if you looked into our Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet. We've got another show coming up here in about an hour and a half here in the States, talking more specifically about the pre-entries. Davey, I'll let you have the final word. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'll just give you another thing. There's a horse I like running in Australia on Friday night in the Moonee Valley card. Yeah, no, really. It's the Moonee Valley Cup. It's race 7, number 5. Drawn 15, very wide. 25 to 1 horse. Fancy Man.
Fancy Man. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
that's just I'm throwing that out there for the subscribers, you know.
All right, we appreciate that, Davey. Listen, you fought through a cold. It's almost midnight there in Liverpool. We really everyone appreciates you coming on, Davey, and good luck, man. Cheers and best wishes, and perhaps I don't know if I will say it on air. Perhaps small chance Davy Lane might be going to California.
I've got some time come my way, so I have to make a decision this weekend. We'll see.
All right. Well, Davey, thanks a lot, man. Cheers. We really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you on the screen to end the show. For my good friend and excellent punter from the UK, Mr. Davy Lane, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 299 of the HHH Racing Podcast. As we say here on the show, crush your bets with those international entrants at the Breeders' Cup. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.